Let's be honest. Most of what passes for men's medicine today is cosmetic triage dressed up as healthcare. A man walks into a clinic exhausted, softer around the middle, mentally dulled, underperforming in the gym, underperforming in the bedroom, and maybe one bad meeting away from losing his patience with everyone in a 10-foot radius. What happens next? A rushed visit, a partial lab panel, a shrug. Then the sacred phrase gets delivered as if Moses brought it down from the mountain. Your labs are normal. Normal. There's that word again. The participation trophy of modern medicine. The bureaucratic excuse for doing absolutely nothing while a man slowly degrades in real time. If you are searching for Men's Health Sarasota guidance, you probably already know normal is not the same as optimal. You are not looking to barely qualify as not dead. You want strength, focus, sexual performance, recovery, drive, and the ability to think clearly without needing 3 coffees and a pep talk. That is a very different objective than disease management, and it is the entire premise of Men's Health Sarasota done correctly. My work at the Age Reversal Technology Center is built around a principle most conventional systems ignore. The body does not fail one lab value at a time. It fails as a network. Hormones, metabolism, mitochondria, vascular function, inflammation, thyroid signaling, sleep architecture, and body composition all interact. If a doctor checks one number and ignores the rest, that is not precision medicine. That is guesswork with a copay. When people first ask about men's health in Sarasota, they almost always jump straight to testosterone. Fair enough. Testosterone matters. A lot. But reducing male optimization to a single hormone is like evaluating a business by looking only at cash flow while ignoring debt, operations, staffing, and supply chain. So yes, testosterone is central. No, it is not the whole map. The modern environment is hostile to male biology. Endocrine disrupting compounds in plastics, sedentary work, artificial light, sleep disruption, hyper-processed food engineered by people who would sell breakfast dessert as heart healthy if they could print it on a cereal box with a cartoon bird. Add chronic stress, lower physical activity, poor muscle mass, and insulin resistance, and you have the perfect setup for hormonal decline. Most medical training does not adequately prepare physicians to interpret this systems level collapse. That is not me being dramatic. That is me being honest. Traditional models are excellent for trauma, acute infection, and crisis intervention. But for men seeking Men's Health Sarasota solutions that improve performance, resilience, libido, and health span, the standard playbook is often badly outdated. We need to talk about the interconnectedness of male physiology. Hormones talk to fat cells talk to inflammatory pathways. Inflammation affects insulin signaling. Insulin resistance worsens testosterone dynamics. Thyroid dysfunction reduces metabolic efficiency. Poor sleep worsens cortisol and glucose control. Reduced oxygen utilization impairs mitochondria. Then everyone acts shocked when you feel 20 years older than you are. Amazing. It's almost like the body is a system. That is why I do not chase symptoms in isolation. I look for patterns. And for men looking into Men's Health Sarasota care, that distinction matters more than any buzzword a clinic can put on a website. Yes, we need to talk about testosterone therapy Sarasota, because a shocking number of men are operating with hormone levels that would have been considered unimpressive decades ago and are now told to celebrate because they are in range. But first, we need to define terms, because sloppy language creates sloppy medicine. Chronological age is the number of birthdays you have had. Biological function is how your tissues are actually performing right now. Those are not the same thing. Your average doctor looks at total testosterone, which is the total amount circulating in the bloodstream, but a large portion of that testosterone is bound to proteins, especially sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG. Bound hormone is not useless, but it is not readily available to tissues. What matters functionally is free testosterone, the portion available to enter cells, activate receptors, support protein synthesis, improve libido, maintain motivation, and help preserve lean mass. This is where most men get misled. A normal range is a statistical construct. It is usually derived from a reference population and often reflects the middle 95% of the lab's sampled group. That sounds scientific until you ask the obvious question nobody seems eager to ask. What if the reference population is already metabolically damaged, sleep-deprived, overfed, undermuscled, inflamed, and hormonally compromised? Then the normal range is simply the average of a declining population. An optimal range is different. It asks, at what level does a man tend to function best in the real world? Energy, libido, recovery, mood, body composition, cognitive clarity, training response, sexual performance, motivation, resilience. That is the conversation men actually care about, and rightly so. For men pursuing Men's Health Sarasota optimization, this distinction is non-negotiable. I am not interested in whether your number allows a lab printout to avoid a red flag. I am interested in whether your physiology is supporting the life you want to live. This did not happen by accident. Over the last several decades, average male testosterone levels have declined across age groups. There are several reasons for this. Reference populations changed. Labs use contemporary populations to build ranges. If the modern male population gets fatter, more insulin resistant, more sedentary, more sleep deprived, and more medicated, the population average drops. Then the lab range follows it down like a bureaucrat in an elevator. obesity, and visceral fat increased. More adipose tissue means more aromatase activity, more inflammatory signaling, and greater conversion of testosterone to estradiol. Insulin resistance became common. Hyperinsulinemia and metabolic dysfunction impair testicular function and alter SHBG dynamics. Environmental endocrine disruptors expanded. BPA, phthalates, pesticides, and related compounds can interfere with hormone signaling. Sleep quality deteriorated. Lower deep sleep means lower hormone output and poorer recovery. Physical labor declined. Sedentary lifestyles contribute to lower muscle mass, weaker insulin sensitivity, and lower anabolic signaling. Chronic stress increased. Elevated cortisol and sympathetic overdrive work against healthy testosterone production. Medication burden rose. SSR is opioids, statins, some antihypertensives, and other common drugs can disrupt libido, endocrine function, or mitochondrial performance. So, when a man looking for Men's Health Sarasota help is told his testosterone is normal, what he is often hearing is this: congratulations, you match the average of a population that is sick and getting sicker. That is not reassuring. That should offend you. The hormonal conversation never ends with one testosterone number. I want context. I want the full pattern. That means we often evaluate free testosterone to assess bioavailable androgen activity, SHBG, because binding dynamics matter, estradiol, sensitive assay, because balance matters, not suppression for sport, DHEA-S and pregnenolone as upstream hormone precursors, LH and FSH when appropriate, to understand signaling from the brain to the testes cortisol patterns because stress chemistry reshapes everything, fasting insulin and glucose markers because metabolic health drives hormone health, comprehensive thyroid markers because low thyroid function can mimic or worsen low testosterone symptoms. Men searching for men's health. Sarasota answers often think they need one hormone fixed. In reality, they usually need the entire physiological conversation translated properly. Now let me step on another sacred cow. Testing only TSH and declaring the thyroid fine is one of the biggest diagnostic failures in modern outpatient medicine. TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. It is a signaling hormone from the pituitary, not the active thyroid hormone doing the metabolic work inside your cells. Measuring TSH alone is like checking whether a manager sent an email and assuming the factory is running smoothly. It tells you something. It does not tell you enough. A proper thyroid evaluation for many symptomatic men should include TSH-free, T4, free, T3, reverse T3, thyroid antibodies when indicated. Why does this matter for Men's Health and Sarasota Care? Because thyroid function governs metabolic rate, thermogenesis, bowel motility, mental speed, recovery, hair quality, energy production, and the efficiency of countless enzymatic reactions, including hormone production. A man with low thyroid function may present with fatigue, brain fog, depressed mood, difficulty losing fat, poor workout recovery, low libido, cold intolerance, constipation, reduced motivation. Sound familiar? Of course it does. Those symptoms overlap heavily with low testosterone, high estrogen, and mitochondrial decline. Free T4 is largely a storage hormone. Free T3 is the more metabolically active hormone at the tissue level. Reverse T3 can become elevated under chronic stress, inflammation, under eating, illness, or poor mitochondrial conditions, effectively acting like metabolic static on the line. A patient can have a TSH that looks acceptable, while peripheral conversion and tissue-level thyroid performance are a mess. This is why TSH-only testing fails men. It misses conversion problems. It misses functional hypothyroid patterns. It misses stress-driven thyroid slowdown. It misses the autoimmune context. And then the patient gets told to sleep more and maybe try yoga. Fine advice for a vacation brochure. Not enough for real medicine. For many men pursuing Men's Health, Sarasota optimization, restoring thyroid function is one of the hidden levers that improves energy, body composition, cognition, and training results even before we touch more advanced interventions. This is where the wheels usually come off for a lot of men. The vast majority of adults now have some degree of insulin resistance, whether it has been formally diagnosed or not. That means the body is producing more insulin than it should to keep blood sugar controlled. Over time, tissues become less responsive, insulin rises further, fat storage increases, inflammation increases, and mitochondrial efficiency tends to decline. This is not just a blood sugar issue. It is a whole body signaling problem. For men seeking Men's Health Sarasota Care, insulin resistance is often the silent saboteur underneath low energy, expanding waistlines, stubborn fat, low libido, and declining testosterone. I call it the death loop because it behaves like a self-reinforcing biochemical trap. Here's the sequence. You eat in a way that drives repeated insulin spikes. Over time, you become more insulin resistant. Higher insulin favors fat storage, especially visceral fat around the abdomen. Visceral fat is metabolically active and inflammatory. Visceral fat expresses more aromatase, the enzyme that converts testosterone into estradiol. Higher estradiol and worsening metabolic dysfunction reduce healthy testosterone signaling. Lower testosterone means less lean mass, less insulin sensitivity, lower training response, and easier fat gain. More fat leads to more aromatase activity. The cycle accelerates. That is the loop. And no, you do not break it with motivational quotes and a treadmill stroll twice a week. Biology is not impressed by your good intentions. Aromatase is an enzyme. Enzymes are proteins that speed up specific chemical reactions. In this case, aromatase converts androgens, such as testosterone, into estrogens, such as estradiol. Men need some estradiol. Let's not act like estrogen is a villain in a comic book. Estradiol supports bone, brain, libido, and vascular function in proper balance. The problem is not estrogen's existence. The problem is excess conversion in the wrong metabolic environment. Visceral fat is not passive padding. It behaves like an endocrine organ. It produces inflammatory cytokines, alters adipokines such as leptin, disrupts insulin signaling, and increases aromatase expression. The more visceral fat a man carries, the more likely he is to convert testosterone down an unfavorable pathway. This is one reason abdominal obesity is so strongly associated with low testosterone states. For men looking into Men's Health Sarasota treatment, understanding aromatase is critical because it explains why symptom relief often requires reducing visceral fat and improving insulin sensitivity, not merely adding hormones and hoping the chemistry sorts itself out. Insulin resistance does several ugly things at once. It encourages central fat gain, it worsens inflammation, it impairs endothelial function and circulation, it can alter SHBG levels, it contributes to energy crashes and cravings, it reduces metabolic flexibility, it often pairs with poor sleep and elevated cortisol. This means a man can feel exhausted, softer, less driven, and sexually compromised even before a disease label gets attached. That is why Men's Health Sarasota optimization has to include metabolic rehabilitation. If you ignore insulin, you eventually lose the hormone battle too. Research published in the New England Journal of Medicine showed important relationships between testosterone, estradiol, and body composition. The takeaway is simple. Hormone pathways affect fat gain, and fat gain feeds back into hormone pathways. This is not a side issue. It is the center of the room. If your clinician is not discussing weight management and metabolism as part of a Men's Health Sarasota strategy, they are treating the smoke and ignoring the fire. Let's have the conversation most men postpone until the problem starts, scheduling the conversation for them. Sexual function is often the canary in the coal mine for overall vascular health. Erections are not just about desire. They depend on blood flow, endothelial signaling, nitric oxide production, nerve integrity, hormone balance, and microvascular responsiveness. The capillaries and small arteries involved are narrower than the coronary vessels, which means dysfunction often shows up there earlier. So if a man pursuing Men's Health Sarasota treatment is noticing inconsistent erections, reduced rigidity, slower response, or less reliable performance, I do not dismiss that as merely a bedroom issue. I consider it a vascular issue until proven otherwise. If microcirculation is impaired, the penis tells the truth before the rest of the body catches up. That same endothelial dysfunction can be a warning sign for broader cardiovascular risk. A systematic review in European urology concluded that erectile dysfunction and cardiovascular disease are closely linked manifestations of the same systemic disorder. At ARTC, we do not reduce this to a prescription refill model. The blue pill economy is convenient, profitable, and intellectually lazy. It can create a temporary effect without repairing the biology that created the dysfunction in the first place. We focus on hormonal and sexual health by addressing hormonal insufficiency, endothelial dysfunction, nitric oxide signaling inflammation, insulin resistance, microvascular impairment, body composition, recovery capacity. And yes, that includes strategic use of therapies like EWOT, exercise with oxygen therapy, where appropriate, because better oxygen delivery and vascular performance can influence energy, recovery, and circulation in a meaningful way. If you want better performance, you need better plumbing. Crude but accurate, and it is why vascular repair sits at the core of Real Men's Health Sarasota care. Why does a 20-year-old recover from a hard workout in hours while a 50-year-old may feel like he was hit by a truck driven by poor decisions? Mitochondrial efficiency. Mitochondria are the energy-producing structures inside your cells. They generate ATP, which is the usable cellular currency that powers contraction, repair, cognition, detoxification, and basically every process you would prefer not to fail. As men age, especially in the presence of poor sleep, chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, oxidative stress, and inactivity, mitochondrial performance tends to decline. This is one reason men seeking Men's Health Sarasota support often report slower recovery, lower stamina, brain fog, reduced exercise tolerance, less motivation, weaker stress, resilience. They assume this is aging. Sometimes it is aging, plus terrible inputs. More often, it is aging amplified by preventable dysfunction, which is exactly what Serious Men's Health Sarasota work is designed to unwind. Low testosterone can worsen mitochondrial function. Poor thyroid conversion can worsen it. High estrogen in the wrong context can contribute indirectly. Chronic insulin resistance certainly does not help. Then we add fragmented sleep and wonder why the engine sounds rough. Again, modern life keeps handing men biological sabotage while the wellness industry sells flavored powders and confidence. And then there is sleep. If you are not sleeping deeply, you are not recovering properly. Sleep is where a great deal of hormone regulation, neural repair, lymphatic cleanup, tissue recovery, and growth hormone signaling happen. If you have sleep apnea, elevated evening cortisol, alcohol-disrupted sleep, blue light saturation, or simple sleep neglect, you are handicapping every hormonal and metabolic system we are trying to improve. Improving sleep quality is one of the fastest ways to move the needle for men pursuing men's vitality Sarasota goals. Not glamorous, extremely effective. I did not spend decades studying medicine, physiology, endocrinology, naturopathy, and regenerative strategies just to run a glorified refill counter for mediocre protocols. I'm not interested in being a low T-mill. I am interested in restoring function. The ARTC Men's Health Sarasota protocol is built as a layered, individualized system. We use foundational diagnostics, then apply targeted interventions based on the biology in front of us. Not trends, not fads, not whatever some shirtless internet prophet claimed between discount codes. 1. Full lab panels, we begin with data, real data. For men seeking men's health, Sarasota optimization, we commonly look at total testosterone, free testosterone, S, HBG, estradiol D, HEA-S, pregnenolone, fasting, insulin, glucose, and related metabolic markers, cortisol patterns, full thyroid panel, inflammatory and recovery indicators. When indicated, we do not guess. Guessing is expensive and inefficient. We measure, interpret, correlate, and then build. 2. ARX, high intensity, adaptive resistance. With precision, ARX, adaptive resistance exercise, is not ordinary gym work with a fancier acronym slapped on it. ARX uses motorized adaptive resistance to match your force output through the entire range of motion in real time. That means the machine responds to you. If you produce more force, resistance increases. If leverage changes, the system adapts. If fatigue develops, it still challenges you at your capacity rather than relying on a static weight chosen 5 minutes earlier. Mechanistically, ARX helps stimulate intense muscular recruitment while reducing wasted repetition and momentum. That can improve strength signaling, support lean mass retention, increase insulin sensitivity, and create a potent metabolic demand in a very time-efficient format. More lean mass generally improves glucose disposal. Better glucose control helps reduce insulin resistance. Reduced insulin resistance helps improve the hormonal environment. This is why ARX is not just exercise in the context of Men's Health Sarasota care. It is a metabolic intervention. 3. EWOT, oxygen delivery, circulation, and cellular work capacity. EWOT, exercise with oxygen therapy, combines movement with increased oxygen availability. The goal is to improve oxygen loading and tissue delivery while the body is actively working. Mechanistically, this may support mitochondrial function, exercise tolerance, oxygen utilization, and microvascular performance in appropriately selected individuals. When a man is dealing with fatigue, poor recovery, weak endurance, or vascular compromise, oxygen economics matter. Cells cannot make energy efficiently without oxygen. Tissues do not repair well in a low-performance circulatory environment. For men using Men's Health Sarasota services because they feel flat-winded or cognitively dulled, EWOT can be a valuable tool when incorporated into a broader strategy that also addresses hormones, sleep, metabolism, and inflammation. 4. Peptide therapy. Signaling, repair, and recovery support, peptide therapy. Sarasota involves the use of specific amino acid-based signaling molecules designed to influence physiologic communication. Peptides are not magic. They are messengers. The body already uses peptides constantly. The clinical objective is to use evidence-informed peptide strategies to support pathways involved in recovery, tissue repair, body composition, sleep quality, and in some cases, growth hormone signaling. Depending on the patient, peptide therapy may be used to support regenerative signaling, training recovery, appetite control, sleep architecture, or tissue healing. Mechanism matters here. Peptides work by interacting with receptors and influencing the body's own downstream responses rather than simply forcing a blunt pharmacologic effect. For the right candidate in a Men's Health Sarasota program, that can make peptide therapy a useful part of an integrated plan rather than a shiny distraction. 5. Nutritional and metabolic repair. No protocol works if a man keeps fueling himself with industrial sludge and reward food economics. We address protein sufficiency, blood sugar stability, inflammatory load, micronutrient density, and the practical realities of eating in a way that supports testosterone, thyroid conversion, body composition, and recovery. Real food versus fake food. Not complicated. Inconvenient for the processed food industry, sure, but biologically obvious. When you come to ARTC for Men's Health Sarasota services, we start with a deep dive. I want to know when you last felt truly on, not surviving, not fine, on. I want to know about your sleep, training history, body composition changes, libido, mental sharpness, stress burden, recovery capacity, medications, and whether your current routine is actually supporting your biology or slowly mugging it in an alley. We are not looking for a single marker fix. We are looking for synergy and dysfunction patterns. How is insulin resistance influencing aromatase activity? Is low thyroid signaling contributing to fatigue and fat gain? Is poor sleep suppressing recovery and hormonal output? Are vascular issues showing up first as sexual performance changes? We connect the dots because the dots are connected, whether a doctor notices or not. A Real Men's Health Sarasota evaluation should answer questions such as, are your symptoms primarily androgen-related, thyroid-related, metabolic, vascular, inflammatory, or mixed? Is body composition driving hormone imbalance, or is hormone imbalance driving body composition changes, or both? Is your energy problem mitochondrial, endocrine, sleep-based, or all three? Are you under-recovered, overstressed, under-muscled, or under-oxygenated? Which interventions will produce the biggest physiologic return first? That matters because not every man needs the same entry point. Some need aggressive metabolic cleanup, some need hormone optimization, some need vascular support and improved oxygen utilization, some need thyroid correction before anything else will work well. This is why individualized men's health Sarasota care gets better outcomes than one-size-fits-all programs. This is also about ownership. You have to ask yourself a simple question. Who is in charge of your health? It is not your insurance company. They are in charge of billing categories, not vitality. It is not the food industry. They are in charge of selling edible chemistry sets in bright packaging. It is not Big Pharma, and it is certainly not social media experts who discovered endocrinology last Tuesday. And it is not your doctor's job. His or her job is to catch something critical before it actually kills you, then put you on long-term medication management to satisfy their Big Pharma masters. The bottom line is that you are in charge of your health. That may feel empowering or annoying depending on your mood, but it is still true. Most men wait too long. They wait until erections are consistently unreliable. They wait until the belly fat feels permanent. They wait until they can't recover from training. They wait until their patience shrinks, their confidence drops, and their productivity takes a hit. Then they call it aging because that sounds nobler than admitting the system has been deteriorating for years. The men who often get the best results in men's health Sarasota programs are the ones who act earlier. The 42-year-old who notices he no longer bounces back. The 48-year-old executive whose mental edge is softening. The 55-year-old athlete who can still perform but knows the trend line is wrong. Those men are not overreacting. They are paying attention. Even if you are in your 70s or 80s, there is still a lot that you can do to make your remaining years more enjoyable. You do not service a high-performance vehicle only after the engine catches fire. The same rule governs Serious Men's Health Sarasota care. If you are tired of your labs are normal routine, if you are done with symptom-chasing medicine, and if you are serious about improving health span rather than collecting prescriptions, then this is the right time to act. Men looking for Men's Health Sarasota care usually do not need more information. They need a framework, a real assessment, and a plan that respects physiology instead of averages.